When Joe Louis made cutting remarks about Bruce Lee in front of Chuck Norris, no one could have predicted the response. What Norris said, and how he said it, left everyone speechless. It all happened on a crisp October afternoon in 1978, inside a dojo tucked away in South Bay, Los Angeles. Sunlight filtered across the mats as a dozen eager students sat quietly in a semicircle, their white GIs spotless, their faces calm, their anticipation growing. At the front stood Joe Louis. At 34, he was at the peak of his career, a powerhouse of karate and kickboxing, his explosive combinations earning him legendary status across the martial arts world. Tall, broad-shouldered, with slicked-back dark hair and that unmistakable intensity in his eyes, he commanded respect just by standing still. "Today," he began, voice full of authority, "we're talking about real fighting. Forget what you've seen in the movies. Forget fancy techniques and camera tricks. Real combat is about efficiency, power, and speed." A young student hesitated, then raised his hand. "Sensei Louis, what about the techniques Bruce Lee used in his films? The one-inch punch, for example?" Louis waved a hand dismissively. "Listen," he said, "Bruce was a good friend. May he rest in peace. But let's be honest, there's a big difference between what looks good on camera and what works in a fight." He began pacing slowly in front of the students. All that fancy Wing Chun trapping, the philosophical approach, impressive, sure. But in a real fight, what wins is raw, direct power. Straight shots. Explosive speed. Some students nodded. Others exchanged uncertain glances. Louis continued, his tone firm, almost defiant. "Bruce spent too much time on forms, on the intercepting fist, on all that flowing movement. Looks nice, but when it comes down to it, a clean American karate chop will beat fancy footwork every time." What Louis didn't realize was that Chuck Norris had quietly stepped into the dojo from the back entrance. At 38, Norris carried himself differently, calm, measured, but still radiating power. Behind him trailed a young writer named Rachel, notebook in hand. Chuck listened silently as his old friend critiqued their late companion. "The truth is," Louis went on, unaware of his new audience, "Bruce belonged to a different era. If he fought today, he'd be too slow for modern competition. All that meditation and philosophy won't help when someone's throwing 3 kicks before you've even made up your mind." And that's when a calm voice cut through the air. "Interesting perspective, Joe." Every head turned. Louis froze, then smiled as he recognized Norris. "Chuck," he said, quickly shifting his tone to friendly. "Just giving the kids a dose of realism." "I heard," Norris replied evenly. "Mind if I offer a different point of view?" Louis shrugged. "Your dojo, your rules." But there was a flicker in his eyes, a challenge accepted. Norris stepped beside him and addressed the students. "Bruce Lee wasn't just a friend," he said. "He was the most complete martial artist I've ever known. His goal wasn't to be the fastest or strongest. It was to understand the flow of combat. To be exactly where the opponent didn't expect him to be." Louis crossed his arms. "Sounds poetic, Chuck. But philosophy doesn't block punches." Norris smiled. "And speed without purpose is just movement." You could feel the air tighten. Two giants of martial arts, toe-to-toe in words first, about to let their philosophies speak through motion. Louis tilted his head. "You saying Bruce's style was better than direct aggression?" "I'm saying Bruce understood that real martial arts aren't about proving who's faster or stronger," Norris replied calmly. "They're about understanding." Louis grinned, but there was an edge to it. "Come on, Chuck. In a real fight, the faster man wins." Norris just looked at him for a moment, then turned to the students. "Maybe we should test that theory." Louis raised an eyebrow. "You mean right here?" "Unless," Norris teased, "you're too busy teaching." A murmur rippled through the dojo. Everyone sat straighter. They were about to witness something incredible. Louis nodded. "All right, 3 rounds. Let's see if speed really is everything." "Agreed," said Norris. "But one rule, no protective gear. Light contact only." Within minutes, the mats were cleared, a sparring space set up. Word spread fast. Instructors and advanced students gathered around. The air was thick with excitement. Both men stretched in silence. Louis bounced lightly on his toes, fists loose and ready. Norris stood still, centered, calm, breathing the way Bruce had taught him. "Ready?" called Mike Stone, another champion who had stepped up to referee. They nodded. The first round began. Louis exploded forward. His legs were a blur, kicks snapping toward Norris's midsection with machine gun speed. But Norris wasn't there. He shifted, just slightly, gliding out of range, positioning himself effortlessly. When Lewis followed with punches, Norris deflected them with almost invisible movement, minimal, precise, efficient. "Come on, Chuck," Lewis called mid-flurry. "You're just dodging." Norris said nothing. He stepped in, timing it perfectly. A light tap to the abdomen, another to the temple, both so controlled they barely touched, yet everyone watching knew. If they'd landed with intent, the fight would have been over. Lewis stepped back, eyes wide with surprise and respect. "Time," Mike Stone called. No points were given, but the silence in the dojo said everything. Norris hadn't hit hard, he hadn't needed to. His control, his timing, his understanding of distance had said it all. Back in their corners, Lewis rolled his shoulders. "Not bad," he said. "But I was just warming up." "I know," Norris replied simply. Round 2. Lewis came in harder this time, blending speed with grappling, trying to use his size to dominate. But Norris moved like water, never resisting head-on, never giving an opening, just redirecting every attack. Then Lewis launched his signature spinning heel kick, lightning fast, deadly accurate. The crowd gasped. But Norris wasn't there. He had flowed with the motion, circling behind Lewis before the kick even landed. When Lewis turned, Norris was already in position, hand hovering a breath away from a dozen vital points. "Time," Stone called again, awe in his voice. "Point, Norris." The crowd erupted. They weren't just watching a sparring match, they were witnessing two philosophies collide. Lewis breathed heavily now, not from exhaustion, but from deep thought. "How are you doing that?" he asked. Norris lowered his guard. "Before we go again, let me ask you something. Do you really believe Bruce was too slow?" Lewis paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "Well, I never fought him. But from what I saw, from films." Norris interrupted gently. "You saw the show. I saw the man, training, experimenting, pushing the limits of what fighting is." The dojo was utterly silent. "Bruce told me once," Norris continued, "that true speed isn't about moving fast. It's about moving right. If you understand distance, timing, and intent, you don't need to be faster than your opponent. You just need to be where they don't expect you, when they least expect it." Lewis thought back over the rounds. Every exchange, every failed strike. "Finally," he said quietly, "none of my attacks landed. And how many times did I have to move at full speed to stop them?" Norris asked. Lewis looked down. "You didn't." Norris nodded. "That's the lesson. The highest level of martial arts isn't about being faster or stronger. It's about understanding combat so deeply that you're always one step ahead mentally." Silence. Then Lewis, once so proud of his speed, finally smiled. He wasn't too slow, he admitted softly. He was operating on a completely different level. Norris chuckled. "Exactly." Lewis turned to his students. "Don't make my mistake," he said. "Don't close your mind to other styles or philosophies. Each fighter must find their own path, blend what works, discard what doesn't. And never underestimate the depth of true understanding." Norris placed a hand on his shoulder. Somewhere, they both knew, Bruce Lee would have smiled. Lewis looked around the dojo one last time. His voice was softer now, humbler. "Class dismissed. But before next time, think about this. Real martial arts aren't about being the fastest or the strongest. They're about understanding combat so completely that speed and strength become tools, not crutches." As the students filed out, Rachel finished scribbling notes, an eyewitness to a moment that would echo through martial arts history. In the years that followed, both Chuck Norris and Joe Louis would look back on that afternoon as a turning point. The day they stopped being rivals and became students again. Students of Bruce Lee's timeless philosophy. So, what do you think about Joe Louis's belief in the supremacy of speed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.